Hey, this is Justine Blanchet. Thank you so much for listening to Hank Jr. Hank's Corner. Check out my new EP, Don't Ask Me to Dance.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Hank's Corner. I am Hank Jr., your host. I'm part of Hank Jr. Productions, where I'm documenting life's moments through photography, videography, and now over 100 podcasts. And one of the things that I like about doing these podcasts is I get to meet different people that I never thought I would get a chance to meet. And not only that, there is no borders when it comes to doing the podcast. So we're going to go across the border up to Canada, and we're going to be talking with Justine Blanchet today. Justine, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How about you?
All right. And I mentioned that you're from Canada. Are you actually in Canada today?
I currently am. I've been back from Nashville for 2 weeks.
Okay. And I hear that you go back and forth between the two. How often are you going back and forth between the two?
So it varies from year to year, but I've been doing a couple of months here, a couple of months there. But yeah, it's a lot because I've been doing that for 2 years, so it's been quite a journey.
How easy is it to make that trip? Because you're from the Montreal area, correct?
Yeah, so it is a 20-hour drive, and I
Hmm.
typically stop in Ohio. I have some friends there. Amazing people. Hey, Bouquets, if you're watching this, listening. They're amazing people. Love stopping. I wish I could stay for longer sometimes because I stay for the night and then I'm out the next morning, really. But yeah, it's a 2-day drive for me.
Okay, and well, definitely, I want to talk a little bit about Canada later in the show because I've never been up that way, and one of these days maybe I will. But I do want to get to the fact that you have just released an album called "Don't Ask Me to Dance." Tell me a little bit about that and how exciting that is for you to release it.
It is extremely exciting because it coincides with my first travel to Nashville as well. Because I've been working on this EP for 2 years, and coming in August, it'll be 2 years of me traveling back and forth. And initially, when I first started going to Nashville, I didn't have the intention of recording or starting any project. I knew an EP was about time to happen, like it needed to happen for sure, but I didn't have the intention to do that. But it kind of just worked all together like that. And we recorded a first round of songs, 3 songs, which all 3 are on the EP currently. And we just went from there. Honestly, it was step by step and 2 years. And I'm like, oh my goodness, finally, this thing is coming out. Let's do it.
And I hear people talk about a lot of times on the show, like it's about time to put out the EP, or it just felt right. For you, what is the difference between releasing a song just out there on social media, maybe get some airplay, or actually putting together an EP? Like, what is the difference for you to do that?
There's a lot. Obviously, a single is you go in, you record, and then you schedule your release with whatever platform you use, and like get the cover art done, all those kinds of things. Like those little pieces, send it to radio. There's a bunch of little pieces that have to come together. But for an EP, it's a lot more because there's more songs, and obviously everything has to kind of fit together. And to me, things like the cover art design, picking the title for the EP was also something which that took a while, but it was also a thing where I was like, I don't know really. I feel like I'm gonna feel it, and it really was when I found it out what was gonna be. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Let's go with it and not question it too much. Because if I do question it, then forget it. Like it's not happening.
Mhm.
Overthinker over here. But yeah, and even the design of the what the album's gonna look like, because I want to make physical copies, and those are ordered already, and they're all of that, and it's just making sure all those time frames come together properly. It's just a huge project. It's very different.
Yeah, and you touched on a couple of things that I hear quite a bit. Like sometimes it's about the artistic value of it, and
Mhm.
some artists are putting it together because it's a collection of songs that kind of tie together that might tell a
Yeah.
story actually throughout the album. And the other thing you touched about was the physical copy. And I know that CDs aren't as popular now as they used to be, but people still like having that tangible CD. But
Mhm.
also vinyl's coming out a little bit more, and
Yeah,
artists are liking to see their stuff in a tangible format, whether it is CDs or vinyl, and it's just something that they can hold and say, "Hey, look what I've done."
exactly. I mean, as much as for this round, I didn't go ahead and make vinyls because it was very expensive, and I was
Mhm.
like, my budget's a little smaller. Once we get to full album or something like that, we can definitely do the vinyl, and that will be appropriate for that. But as a debut EP, my first collection of what I was saying about the collection is that with those songs coming together, as much as the artist wants a physical copy of it, it's great for us to sell it, but it's also a big representation of what we just worked on.
And I apologize a little bit there if the video seems a little bit choppy. We are having a little bit of problems, and that sometimes it happens with the internet. And I kind of alluded to you, Justine, offline that I'm broadcasting out of the lightning capital of the world here in the Tampa Bay area. That's where Hank's Corner is located, and we are going through a little bit of a thunderstorm. I don't know if that's what's causing it or not, but we'll hopefully make it through. But we are talking about your latest album, Don't Ask Me to Dance, that was just released on the 23rd of June. And, how great that is to actually have a physical copy and what it means from an artistic value and achievement level of where that comes. And one of the songs that you have recently put out there on social media that I saw you playing was called Cheap Sunglasses. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, this is a song. So all the songs on the album I did not write, but there's amazing co-writers on this EP. I'm incredibly fortunate to be able to say that I have these songwriters on there. But Cheap Sunglasses is one of those summer songs that you play in your car with the windows down. It is truly, like, I'm not just saying this because it's a song I'm singing, but and at this point I've sung it a bunch of times. So um no, it's really, and it's just a fun summer song, and it has a bunch of metaphors in it that I thought was really really interesting. And we played off for the music video. We played off of the metaphor, the cheap sunglasses. So I ended up buying, I believe, about 50 pairs on Amazon, and they're scattered throughout the music video. It's quite interesting.
Okay. And I will agree, it's perfect timing. We're dead here in the summer. I mean, Florida, we started summer probably a couple months back, but for the rest of the country, it's perfect
Yeah,
timing. And I was just wondering, Dustin, will you be willing to play Cheap Sunglasses here on Hank's Corner?
absolutely. I would be honored. Driving up 65, got the sun in my eyes, but it ain't gonna blind me. Got the wind in my hair, there's no love in the air, just some heartache behind me. I'm just too scared to try again, so I'm gonna play pretend. That's why I only wear cheap sunglasses. I won't miss them if I lose them, and safer if I choose them, cause you can't break plastic. I just wear for a while till they go out of style. I don't mind if they get scratched, cause they look good while they last. It's just time that I'm wasting. It ain't love that I'm chasing. That's why I only wear cheap sunglasses. Ooh. I keep trying them on till the feeling gets strong, then run away and replace them. Cause I don't trust myself or anyone else. Yeah, that's why I only wear cheap sunglasses. I won't miss them if I lose them, it's safer if I choose them, cause you can't break plastic. I just wear for a while till they go out of style. I don't mind if they get scratched, cause they look good while they last. It's just time that I'm wasting. It ain't love that I'm chasing. That's why I only wear cheap sunglasses. Ooh. I'm just too scared to try again. So I'm gonna keep on playing pretend. Yeah, that's why I only wear cheap sunglasses. I won't miss them if I lose them, it's safer if I choose them, cause you can't break like plastic. I just wear for a while till they go out of style. I don't mind if they get scratched, 'cause they look good when I realize it's just time that I'm wasting. It ain't love that I'm chasing. That's why I only wear cheap sunglasses. Ooh, that's why I only wear cheap sunglasses.
Welcome back to Hank's Corner. I'm here with Justine Blanchet, straight out of Canada. And, if this is the first time that you're hearing Justine, aren't you in for a treat? Because I know the first time that I heard her, I was actually mesmerized by the voice. It's just something that you have that not everybody has. One of those things where you can't put, words into it. But I know when I heard a couple of your songs, I'm like, you know what, this girl's going to be going places. And you just heard Cheap Sunglasses from her recent released album, Don't Ask Me to Dance. And Justine, I'm curious, how did you get involved with music? Was this something that's always been something that you grew up with, or what made you decide, hey, music's for me?
It's definitely something I grew up with because I am the second of four kids, and we were all homeschooled all the way till the end, up to university years. And essentially, music was part of our curriculum. So I started playing. Both my older brother and I started playing piano very young. I believe I was 4 when I started playing piano, and we did that for about, oh gosh, 13 years. So music was always like on our daily, and we picked up guitar here and there. I ended up playing some saxophone in my teen years, like lots of different instruments. And I was 12. I was gonna be 12 when I had to be hospitalized for a burst appendix.
Mhm.
And essentially I was spent 3 weeks in the hospital for that because of sepsis and all kinds of complications. Gory details that I'm not gonna go into. But essentially came out the other end just being like, and this is weird for a 12-year-old, and I will say this till the day I die. A 12-year-old just being like, hey, I feel like I have a second chance at life, and let's do something and just not live day for day or whatever it is. And so music, because it was already in my life, and singing was something I was curious about. Essentially, I ended up starting my singing career and as an artist in the opera genre. Very strange. Again, don't know why 12-year-old me picked that, but I did. And so I did that for about, oh gosh, 3 years. 3 years of just going to random competitions, and which, to be honest, it did launch me to love the stage and all that stuff, and competitions and all that, which I ended up getting stuff like first prize and third prize, second prize, all those kinds of things. So great formative experience. But eventually I was like, I have zero Italian roots, and it's just not me. And my singing teacher at the time, she asked me, I actually am going to get to see her next week, which is so exciting. It's been a while. She asked me, I was 15, and she was like, what do you want to do? Like, what genre do you like? Because clearly opera was just not fueling my passion for music. And so, um, because my family and I grew up going to the United States and taking trips, homeschooling was very easy because it made that very easy. And so you turn on the radio when you go to the US, and it's country, right? And so my mom, who already knew amazing women like Reba, Shania Twain, all these people, Lady A, like I was already listening to those people. And so when my singing teacher asked me, I was like, I love country music. It's down to earth. It's very, very much my personality to love that genre. And so we were like, all right, let's go. And so it's been a ride ever since, to be honest.
Okay. And, obviously we only have a short amount of time on the podcast, and you have a lot to cover, but I do want to touch on one thing that I found kind of interesting that you mentioned, because I had Brooke Morbore and Alicia Eichel, also from Canada, on the show before, and both of them had told me stories about where they had some kind of injury or something that had happened to them, and when they came out of it, it was kind of a new perspective on life, and music was one of the healing things that kept them going. And it's kind of interesting to hear you say that. So what was music, you know, while you were going through that, kind of a support system as well? And tell me a little bit more about how it shot you to, you know, move forward.
I can say that for me, music was an outlet. And so being homeschooled and never really, I never acted my own age. So that's, doesn't help. but being homeschooled and all that, and just never really ever fitting into any group and always trying really hard to. And so that came to opposition with things like bullying and all of that. And so, having gone through something traumatic like a life and death situation at 12 years old. I was a couple weeks from turning 12, and having to go through those formative experiences later than normal people would. When I say normal, I mean people who go to public school. um, going through those stages later because I was homeschooled, and then that kind of music became an outlet for me because I was like, I need to process certain things and I want to write about them. And I mean, now I look back and and look at the songs that I wrote at the time, and I'm like, whew, 15-year-old Justine had no idea. Hey, but that's part of growing up, right?
Right, right. And do you actually remember the first song that you wrote?
I did, because it is the first song that I recorded and put out there. It's not the first song that went to Canadian radios, but yeah, the song was called "Sing Like No One's Watching." It is no longer available because it is so embarrassing.
Mm.
It's not available on digital platforms, but the music video is still on my YouTube. So, for the love of God, please don't go look.
Now everybody's going to be clicking on it.
I know. Now I'm regretting. I'm just gonna eat back my words. Please don't. No. So that, which is funny that we're talking about this song because the music video was actually shot here at my grandma's house. Not this one, but very, very close by. So there's lots of memories tied in this specific location where I'm at right now. But the song, I kid you not, like I had a poster on my wall that was just music stuff, and I was like, I like what this poster's saying, and just ended up plugging it into a song, and I don't know, something came out of it, and I was like, all right, that's good enough for me. And I was 15 at the time, so
Well, and that's interesting because that's something new. Because usually when I'm talking to artists, when I talk to the female artists, they'll say, "Well, my first song was about a boy that did me wrong, and I basically did a Taylor Swift and wrote a bad song about him." And then I talk to some of the guys, and a lot of times the guys will say, "Oh, you know, it was a romantic song," and that's what they
yeah,
usually write first. And for you to say, "Hey, I just pulled something off a poster and went with it," that's
pretty much, and it ended up being this thing where I wrote the song with the help of my singing teacher at the time, and I was like, this is so funny because I ended up looking back on all those lyrics, and I was like, this song is kind of about the process of writing a song. Like, how weird is that? Like, whatever.
Mhm, mhm.
I thought it was strange, but hey,
It
it's
it all works, and, you know, don't be embarrassed about the way that you were. I know some artists say, "Well, I've taken things
right.
off, and I won't put it out there on any platforms," and some that will leave it, and I respect those that leave it because, you know, as a fan, you know, you know, I understand that people grow, but it's more interesting for me to see how they grew from, you know, a young age and moved up, and, you know, I'm more impressed and respect that a little bit more. But I wanna go ahead and play the video "Heartless," and when we'll come back, we'll talk a little bit more.
I thought I was the exception, but deep down I know that I was just one more notch for your collection. Of course you walked away. Maybe I thought I could fix you, but boys like you aren't fixable. And I knew better than to be with you, but I tried anyway. Oh, that thing in my chest always thinks it knows best, but it's a liar. Yeah, it's a liar. I should have listened to my heartless. To pull the wool over my eyes and let me straight into fire. It's just as dumb as it is reckless. I should have listened to my head more and heartless. Ooh, should have listened to my heartless. Every energy. That thing in my chest, always making a mess, 'cause it's a liar. Oh, it's a liar. I should have listened to my heart less. To pull the wool over my eyes and let me straight into fire. It's just as dumb as it is reckless. I should have listened to my head more and heartless. Flags go red, should've used my head, follow my heart less, 'cause I knew you were heartless. Should've listened to my heart less. I should've listened to my heart less. To pull the wool over my eyes and let me straight into fire. It's just as dumb as it is reckless. I should have listened to my head more and heartless. Should have listened to my heart less.
Welcome back to Hank's Corner. I am Hank Jr. here with my special guest, Justine Blanchet, and you just heard Heartless. And you talked a little bit before the song about writing some songs, and then you said on off of this album that the songs that you had that are on here you haven't wrote. But I'm curious about Heartless, and it talks about that you should have listened to your head a little bit more than your heart. Have you, even though you didn't write the song, experienced a situation where man, I listened to my heart and look at this, it got me in trouble?
Oh, I definitely can say that, and my parents can attest to that. That's been the story of my life. kind of. I'm not gonna over exaggerate it or be dramatic, but it's kind of been where I'm very stubborn, and so I'm like, if I want something, I'm just gonna not really think about it and just go for it, which has its ups and downs. I don't recommend it, but hey, we all have a journey again on that. But oh gosh, I can say that not even touching on dating, like it's just yeah, absolutely. I can say it's definitely something.
Yeah, and especially when it comes to songs too, and I guess just advice in general. I mean, you're going to hear from all different angles. You're going to hear people say, "Listen to your heart, go with it," and then you're going to hear things like you said, "Well, don't always listen to your heart, listen to your mind," and really what it comes down to, like you said, it's your own journey. And back to the songs that you actually have written. We're going to play at the end of the podcast. Get Out of the Mud, which I kind of like that song for many reasons. I mean, it's probably one of my most favorite songs by you, but it's for different reasons. And I'm curious about the backstory to that because I'm kind of curious. Did it have anything to do with the COVID years when it came out? Because to me, that was just kind of like a good representation of what everybody was going through, felt stuck in the mud during those years. But if it wasn't about that, tell us the backstory to that one.
It was about COVID. You had it right.
Okay.
So I wrote this song in like 30 minutes, I think. Like it was one of those that just wrote itself. It's just so easy. And I wrote it all by myself. Like it came down, I wrote it, and then I was like, hold on. Again, like I had one of those moments, same as my first song that I wrote, where I was like, hold on, there's a lot of metaphors here. Like this is really like I just wrote and all of a sudden there's a bunch of metaphors there. Which I guess you could dig for metaphors, but this one has a lot, like trust me. And so I wrote that over the summer of 2020. I can't remember which month exactly, but it was this thing where in Quebec we had quite a few restrictions compared to everywhere else, which it progressively got worse.
Mhm.
But yeah, and it was just, I don't know, I was just so annoyed just being stuck, can't go anywhere, and wrote that song, and then we did the photo shoot and video for it that fall. So obviously restrictions were a lot less worse, and we were able to actually meet up with professionals and get some stuff done, which was great. The video was fun to shoot. It was interesting because I believe it was October, and October in Quebec gets pretty cold pretty quickly. And so, fortunately, the day we had picked to film, it had rained the day before, and I was like, wonderful, because that's exactly what we
Mhm.
want. And so there was puddles everywhere. But the water in the puddles was cold. And if you watch the video, I'm in one of those puddles. And so it was pretty cold. I also had a hole in one of my rain boots, and so one of my foot was frozen, and it was quite an experience. It was really fun though, and then that released in February of 2021. So it was definitely a COVID song. You were right.
And you definitely were a professional out there, because I could not tell that you were cold. And of course,
Oh yeah.
the videographer did a great job, and you can't really tell that it's cold or anything out there. But I'm also curious, because I do have an F-150 of myself. Is that your F-150 in the video?
It's not, and I'm really sad that it's not, because I
Uh,
want one so badly. No, it's my dad's best friend's truck, and I asked him at the time. I was like, "Hey, can I borrow it? I'm not going to damage it, I promise, and I'll heal it up and
he was
everything."
probably wondering exactly how are you going to get this stuck in the mud, and are you going to be able to get it
Exactly,
out, right?
and that's the thing. Like, I accidentally started a beef with using a Ford, because people were like, obviously you got stuck, it's a Ford, and I was like,
Uh,
all right, let's not do that. Let's
there
keep
you
that for
go. The
another
Chevy and Dodge
platform.
people come out and take advantage of that,
Oh,
don't
all
they?
of them, the GMCs, all of them were coming out, and they were just mad, and I was like, all right, that's enough.
Well, definitely a fun video. We're going to be playing it at the end of the podcast. But you got another video out there. It's called "Hard to Love." It's doing really well. I think, if I'm not mistaken, because it hasn't been out that long, but I want to swear that it's got like over 150,000 views on YouTube already. So it's doing really well. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I believe you're correct about those views. To be honest, like, it's shocking, but I'm also not surprised, in the sense that it's kind of like this was a first collaboration with a new music video director, who's in Nashville, and so there's a lot more budget that went into that video. It was, I had a hair and makeup artist on set. I hired an actor to play the boyfriend and all that. Like, it was, and the space that I rented is somebody's house, beautiful house. And so all of it, just the aesthetic of everything just came together so nicely, and I just blown away when I got the first draft of that video. It was amazing.
Yeah, definitely a great video, and it's doing well, not only because the video is good, but the song itself is, it's a great song. I
Mhm.
like it, and I'm going to ask you one more time for a favor. Do you mind playing that here on Hank's Corner?
Absolutely, I would love to. Here you go again, calling at 1 a.m. You're either lonely or you've been drinking, and part of me wants to pick it up, but I've been strong along long enough. And oh, I like you, yeah, I really do. You should be sharing the same pillow that I do, but you're not. And I'm tired of the cold and the hot, and I know what you got. You could be tangled up in my sheets, you have your hands all over me. You could be the one who I give my love to, if you were messing with my head. Why you gotta make it so hard to love you? Why you gotta make it so hard to love you? Why you gotta make it so, you always make it so, why you make it so hard to love you? It should be easy falling for you, baby. You got the sweet talk, you got the sexy, and yeah, I feel it when you're here, but then you go and disappear. You say you're into me, but all that I see is someone unavailable emotionally, and then you're not. And I'm tired of the cold and the hot, and I know what you got. You could be tangled up in my sheets, you have hands all over me. You could be the one who I give my love to, if you ain't messing with my head. Why you gotta make it so hard to love you? Why you gotta make it so hard to love you? Why you gotta make it so, you always make it so, why you make it so hard to love you? Oh, you tangled up in my sheets, you have your hands all over me. Why
Welcome back to Hank's Corner. I'm Hank Jr., your host. I'm part of Hank Jr. Productions, where I'm documenting life spoken through photography, videography, and podcasting. And that's Justine Blanchet. And you just heard her sing Hard to Love. Prior to that, we played the video Heartless, and she also performed Cheap Sunglasses for us. And I'm so happy that you're performing live for us. It's always a treat when the artists get to do that for us. And we appreciate that. And if you're liking these songs, go out and get her album that was just released on the 23rd. Don't Ask Me to Dance. Go out there on whatever iTunes or however you get your music, and go ahead and buy that and support Justine, because it's definitely a great album. And I'm curious, who are some of your influences growing up, and as far as get into the music? I know you mentioned some with some of the great ladies of country, and who are some of the influences when it comes out as far as you performing and your music style?
Oh my goodness, that's a great question, because I think it's a combination of a lot, because performance and style. I mean, a lot of people can say they hear Shania Twain in my voice, and I totally see it. Like, yeah, I get it.
Well,
And
she's another Canadian. There you go.
exactly. And if I'm wearing anything leopard print, then there it goes again.
Mhm.
So those definitely help with that branding. But yeah, I mean, it's just a couple of different things. I mean, when I perform, I like to give it my all, and I personally struggle with with remembering my lyrics. I will say that. I think every artist does, but I don't know. There's something about my brain. There's something wrong with it, because it's so bad. I could practice for hours and hours and hours, and I'm just gonna have so much anxiety about forgetting a lyric.
Well, I feel for you, because and I joke with it offline a lot of time with artists, and most of my podcasts are done recorded. Some of them are live streamed, but the reason why I recorded is because I have trouble just like that, even remembering my tagline. So I understand how hard it must be for you to be up on stage and remember a bunch of songs.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy. And as far as my style on stage, what I do between songs or things like that, like, it really boils down to practice, because I used to love to wing it, and I still kind of do. But my mom, it would drive my mom nuts, because she'd be like, "You can't do that. You're gonna mess up," and all those things, and I would never believe her, and I would mess up. But with getting more practice on stage, and I still like to have guidelines of things I want to say between songs, but I'm never gonna over practice it. I'm never gonna over script it, because the best comedy comes from impromptu, right? Just like in the moment. And
Sure.
so I like to draw from what's going on around me, and just crack a joke or two, and it's actually pretty funny. I think it's funny, but but it's one of those where I don't pretend like I'm the best. I will never pretend I'm the best. I am not the best, and so I I like to have real shows. If I'm about to drop my pick, I'm gonna say I almost did. Like, I'm gonna say it. Like, it makes it that much more relatable. And the comments I get anytime I do things like that, people will come up to me and say, "That was so authentic. Like, thank you." And whether it's on social media or on stage, I get the same comments. And I think that's gold. That's gold to me.
Yeah, well, I definitely would love to catch you doing the show one of these days. And I do have a podcast list, or not podcast list, I should say a playlist, out there on Spotify, called the Guest of Hank's Corner. Of course, you're going to be on it now, and I'm curious, who is on your playlist at the moment?
Oh, good heavens. I am listening to quite a couple different playlists these days. I think I go by what Spotify gives me. Like we all know, Spotify's like, "I've curated this thing for
Hmm.
you specifically at 12 p.m. today." And I think it's funny, but I love to listen to a lot of country mixes. Like the New Boots playlist has a lot of, especially up and coming songs that are starting to make it up the charts, but I get to listen to them before they make it up there. So once they do, I'm like, I was listening to it like months ago. But yeah, oh my gosh, and I keep refreshing the playlist, so I can't even tell you like who's on it right now.
Yeah, and you mentioned the up and coming, and I love listening to that too. And that's what I kind of specialize on my podcast. And I've had people from Canada, like I said, I've already mentioned Alicia, but I've had like Paige Rutlish and Ashley LeBlanc, and I'm curious though because I always want to know, who are some of the newer, I don't want to say necessarily newer, but who are some of the people that are up and coming in your area up there that hey, we should tune into, and because watch out, they're going to be taking off soon.
Oh man, there is a few good grief. I mean, there's a lot of Canadian artists that I write with. Like Paige Rutledge is one that we regularly write good songs together, and so she's amazing. Megan Dawson is another one; she's doing great.
Yeah.
Justin Hogg is another one.
Hmm.
He's been doing it for a while. Justin LaBrash is another one. Good. The list could go on forever, I tell you.
Yeah, I'm always curious because I'm willing to promote the up and coming ones, and always like doing that because I tend, the older I get, I always say this, I used to love going to concerts, the big huge concerts, lots of people, and the older I get, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I could deal with as much people, and I always love the newer artists coming where it's still intimate, still having a good time, and I really enjoy that. And I know music takes up musicians' time like there's no other thing that's left to do during the day because you're either writing, you're thinking about writing, you're practicing, you're playing an instrument. But when you do have some free time, what are you doing? Because I hear you're an outdoors girl.
I am. I do like to be outdoors. I will say I don't have a lot of free time lately. Oh gosh, I think any of my free time just spending with friends, family, and just being with people. Outside is great because it's summer right now, but winter in Quebec is not very much allowed. I mean, I'm joking. It does allow that, but I refuse to. By January, I'm pretty much boycotting the snow, to be honest.
I'm guessing you're not an ice skater then.
I will if I have to. I enjoy ice skating, but it's not something I would do all the time. I don't like shoveling. There's a reason I go to Nashville around March. It's just I can't stand seeing the snow melt, and so I'm like, all right, you do your thing. I'll be back when you're melted. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and it is great to get outdoors. And one of the things I've learned about Tennessee is obviously Nashville's a great place, but I've gotten the experience places like Gatlinburg out there as well that just have some nice mountain areas, and it's always fun to go to. But Justine, I really definitely appreciate you coming on the show. Like I said, it's great to hear you perform live. For those that haven't already done so, please go follow Justine on all of her social medias. You can also find her on JustineBlanchet.com, which is listed below. Check out her new album that was just released, Don't Ask Me to Dance. And Justine, if you ever want to be a guest on Hank's Corner, you're more than welcome to do so.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Got my truck from the shop today, looking so clean and pretty. That dent on the frame on the side of the door had me going crazy. So I took it out for a drive on that 2-lane road. But I forgot that when it rains like it did, it leaves a whole lot of holes. I'm feeling stuck in the mud. Got my truck going in circles, and it sucks just how much bad times always feel eternal. We're all here to have a good time, not to all lose our minds. So I threw that baby on parks so I could get out of the mud. Get out, get out, get out, get out, get out of the mud. Covered with dirt from head to toe, so sick, got it up to here. All those tears, all those beers, that you thinking this was gonna be my year. So I grabbed my boots and started to walk home and pray. But I forgot that when it rains like it did, it leaves a sunny day. I'm feeling stuck in the mud. Got my truck going in circles, and it sucks just how much bad times always feel eternal. We're all here to have a good time, not to all lose our minds. So wasn't for